learn how a modern leader copes with uncertainty in order to avoid stress and anxiety in today's episode. Welcome to the Modern Humanitarian and Development Leader podcast, the podcast helping humanitarian and development supervisors make a greater impact by taking control of your time, leading more inclusively, and empowering your team, all the while avoiding stress, burnout, and overwhelm. I'm your host, leadership coach, and former aid worker, Tori Peace. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hello, my aspiring modern humanitarian and development leader. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Uncertainty is a reality of everyday life, but sometimes it's more obvious than others. So in this episode, you're going to discover what it is that causes uncertainty and how it creates anxiety and overwhelm, what negative emotions tell us about our current situation, and 3 practical tips that a modern leader uses to overcome uncertainty. How does a modern leader cope with uncertainty? So first, I think it's just worth taking a look at what causes uncertainty. And uncertainty is really, I would put it as an opinion or a perspective about a situation. And yet, uncertainty or not knowing is also, in a sense, our reality, a constant reality of the present moment, that we do not ever really know what's happening now will lead to in the future, and that things are always uncertain. And it's just that sometimes, like in this time now, it might be more obvious than at other times. But what will cause our anxiety or our fear is not uncertainty itself. It's the way we look at the uncertainty and our relationship to it. And this is why one person can go through a challenging time, like a layoff, for example, and not feel much stress at all, while another person may feel tremendous amounts of stress and anxiety. And it all has to do with, or a lot of it has to do with your perspective. Somebody could be in the exact same situation, and based on their perspective, could have a very different feeling or reaction than someone else in the same situation. So there's nothing wrong with negative emotions, negative being, let's say, anxiety and fear, but they can also be indicators that we may be stuck looking at the negatives in a situation, that we are focusing on what's wrong and the uncertainty of the situation, which is not always helpful. And of course, there are things that we cannot control or we do not know. That is life. That is a reality of everyday life. But negative emotions can be a great indicator that maybe we want to take a step back. Like if you're feeling a lot of anxiety or fear or worry, you might want to pause and apply some of the things that I'm going to share with you today, which I think if you apply these 3 tips or any one of them, you will feel less anxiety and fear around the uncertainty of every day of what we are experiencing. So, tip number one, once again, uncertainty is really just not knowing. It's not knowing what's going to happen, which a lot of times makes us feel out of control and gives us fear. And so the first tip is really just accepting what is true right now, what we know right now to be true, and also realizing that we don't know where we are in the story. And I think I've shared a few times on this podcast the parable about the Chinese farmer who had gone through all these different hardships or things that people would consider hardships, but then they became beneficial to him and then they became hardships. And so losing his horse, and everyone thought, oh, that's horrible. But then the horse came back with more horses. So then they thought, oh, that's great. The story is basically to demonstrate that oftentimes what we think is good or bad in the moment is not that, or that we really just don't know in the long run how things are going to work out. And I remember another example of this that's more personal to me is I had a family member who was going through a really difficult situation at work, a lot of uncertainty in their job, and that they would even, maintain their job, which actually led them to look for something else, which they would not have done otherwise. That eventually they were able to get this other job, and it became an even better opportunity for them, a higher salary, more opportunity to grow. And I think they're actually happier and better off now than they were when all this turmoil was happening, this uncertainty of not knowing they would have this job or whatever. But it actually led them to take action and do something that maybe they would not have otherwise. That ended up being a beneficial thing. So I think it's just good to remember that right now, we don't know what the changes that are happening are going to lead us to. Maybe it will make you as a leader evolve in a way that you would not have otherwise. So just reminding yourself that we just don't know where we are in the story, I think is very helpful. Tip number one. Number two is to focus on what's within our control. So, not everything is within our control. That is also a reality daily. But what happens a lot of times is when we feel like something is being imposed on us, for example, a lot of changes by a donor or a government around aid, funding, or opportunities, then we can feel like a victim. We can feel that we are powerless. And so, one of the keys to getting back that power or to overcome the uncertainty of not being in control is focusing on what do I have control over here. So for me, this year, what I'm going to really focus on is doing the best I can do in terms of delivering courses that produce modern humanitarian and development leaders who can cope with these situations, who can be even more productive, more impactful in their work. That's one thing I want to focus on. But another thing that I really want to focus on is becoming the best version of myself. I have control over improving my health, improving my strength. And those are things that I also want to focus on a more personal note over the next year that I do have control over. So using this as an opportunity of looking at what is within your control, how can you focus on in the situation what you do have control over. Maybe it is helping strengthen your team members. Maybe that's something that is within your control that you want to focus on. So there are many, many things that are within our control, even though we feel like a lot is not. But focusing on what is within your control and deciding what you're going to do about it can be a really powerful way to step out of uncertainty and more into control and empowerment for yourself, which I think is really key here. And then number three, look for the opportunity in these situations. In every situation where there's a lot of uncertainty, when we look into opportunity, for example, looking at how can this situation be happening for you instead of to you? So rather than being a victim of the situation, how can you use it to make yourself stronger? So, for example, maybe if there is a cut in funding or resources that you experience, maybe you have to be even more efficient. Maybe it will encourage you to use ChatGPT more to become more efficient, and that might open up other opportunities for you in the future. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to get even better, empowering those around you and helping them and coaching them to become their best version of themselves. How will experiencing this or this experience make you an even better leader and maybe even a more compassionate one? Finally, I think that it's just a good reminder that gratitude or being grateful for what we have right now, that there are still a lot of things that have not changed. There's still a lot of things we do not know. But while we have them, while things are the way they are, really being grateful for all the things that we have. A lot of times, situations like hard situations, difficult situations make us more grateful and focus on what's really, truly important in our lives, like our health, our family, our friends, our colleagues, and the relationships we have to each other and community. So, once again, just a really quick overview of the 3 tips to cope better with the uncertainty so that you will not experience as much anxiety and fear. Our number 1, just remember that anxiety or uncertainty is just not knowing. And just remember that we do not know where we are in the story. Number 2, focusing on what's within our control can be really impactful in terms of making us feel more empowered to take action and not just be stuck or in the spiral of negativity. And number 3, also looking for the opportunity in all of this and looking at how this will make you stronger as a leader and what do you want to get out of going through or experiencing this situation. All right. So that's it for today. And I'm thinking of all of you, giving you a big virtual hug and just reminding you to use everything that's happening right now to fuel you to become even better leader, even better person. Until next time, keep evolving. Bye for now. Are you the type of leader that tells others what to do? Or do you let them figure it out for themselves? Understanding your leadership style is the first step to deciding what's working for you and what's not. To find out your leadership style, take my free quiz. What is your leadership style? You'll immediately find out your default style, how it may be impacting your team, and a few practical ways to become an even better leader. Just click on the link in the show notes, www.aidforaidworkers.com/quiz, fill out your quiz, and click submit. So what are you waiting for? Go to www.aidforaidworkers.com/quiz and discover your leadership style now. Your team will thank you for it.